Boxing fans, we're in for a treat this month here in November. We have banger after banger after banger card all throughout the month. As Saturday after Saturday after Saturday. 3 straight weeks. You're going to be glued to your television because we have some of the best fights, maybe even on this calendar year here in 2025 in this month. You know, the last couple of months have been a little rough. They've been touch and go. You know, some big fights getting postponed due to injuries. Other fights, just being made for later in the year or early 2026. But November, we are finally here. And I'm going to talk to you about each of the cards going on and the fights. Because I'm telling you, this will have you glued and stuck to your seat on Saturdays here on the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd. You're not going to want to miss it. But first, here's the Never Drop podcast. Make sure you like, comment below which fight you're most excited for. And of course, hit that subscribe button. We're going to talk about the first fight of the month. First big, big card, big fight week, big Saturday night of the month. That's here this week, November 8th in Fort Worth, Texas. I'll be there at Dickies Arena. Vergil Ortiz versus Erickson Lubin. If you follow and subscribe to my channel, I've been talking about it for a while now. This one's a huge fight. Not only because it's two top guys at 154. Vergil Ortiz is the Ring Magazine's number 154-pound fighter. Erickson Lubin, I believe, was number 5 on that list. This is a great matchup, and it's a great matchup because if Vergil wins, you know what it sets up. A Jaron Boots Ennis mega fight. Hopefully in early 2026. This is a fight, you can go, I'll link my preview to this fight in this video and go check out my channel for a full in-depth preview. But hey, this is going to be fireworks. Both guys heavy-handed with power. Vergil Ortiz coming off a great performance against Israel Madrimov earlier this year. Erickson Lubin coming off a TKO win earlier this year as well. This fight is for Vergil's WBC interim title. Of course, Vergil at 154 isn't a champion, but is regarded as one of, if not the best fighters in the division. Erickson Lubin's coming to wreck that whole thing. He's coming to wreck all the plans that Vergil, Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy, the boxing world have. Erickson Lubin's saying, hey, why can't I come in here and squash all that mega fight talk? I'll come in here and I'll play spoiler to the whole thing. He's an opponent who can actually do it. A legit fight. I think I'm maybe most excited for this fight. Well, I say that, we'll talk about some of the fights later on in this month, also in this video, of course. But man, this fight is, again, this is a fight where, one punch can do it on either side of it. We've seen both guys get dropped before. One punch, it might be a fight where both guys get dropped. I don't know. I think it'll be, to a degree, maybe a phone booth battle in the middle rounds, later rounds. They're going to say, hey, forget boxing. Let's just go toe-to-toe. I think it's going to be a fun fight. I will be there at Dickies Arena, so make sure you subscribe for all the coverage and footage for the whole fight week. As we move on to next weekend, a rematch of a fight that honestly could have been a fight of the year contender. We're going to see a British rivalry back at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, number 2. The first one delivered so much. They're like, let's run it back. Even with the weight is still going to be 160 like it was the first fight. Eubank Jr. did win that unanimous decision. But it was a fight that there were moments where you thought, oh my goodness, Conor Benn's going to stop this guy. Conor Benn would start the fight and just control and just had his moments. Eubank would have his moments. Benn would have his moments. They said, hey, forget boxing. This is rivalry. This is, blood rivalry with their fathers. We're just going to put it all on the line. You got 70,000 people there in the stadium cheering them on, millions around the world watching, and it delivered. So they said, let's run it back. I talked about fathers. One of the greatest moments outside of the ring in boxing this year, maybe for a while, the moment where Chris Eubank Sr. opens the door and he pulls up with Eubank Jr. walking into the dressing room. Of course, strange relationship before then. No one knew if he was going to be there. Many thought he wasn't going to be there. He pulls up out of the car, and it's one of those moments where you see where they showed it in the stadium, and the crowd lost it. One of the best moments in boxing outside of the ring, of course, in a while. And I'm excited to see it. Obviously, sometimes the sequel isn't as good as the first. I think with these guys, you got to throw all that other history out of it because they have their own history. Their families have their own history. The Benns versus the Eubanks versus the Benns. Man, all that other history that doesn't relate to the family, throw it out the window because I think this sequel, Conor Benn's coming to get his. Chris Eubank Jr. saying, hey, hold up right there. I want to close this chapter, and maybe, just maybe, I could be in play for a Canelo Alvarez fight in a year or two. I'm just putting that out there. But here, on November 15th, we're going to see the two get back in the ring. I'm excited. I'm super pumped for this fight. You know, being here in the United States, I was like, okay, it's a big fight for, London, all those fight fans. Then when you watch the first one, it's like, yeah, you can feel the energy through your TV. I can't wait. November 15th, that one's going to be incredible. And then, of course, the week after that, we have arguably one of the best cards in a long time. I think this is Turki Alashik's best card. I know he's promoted others as the best cards in boxing. Last Crescendo, the LA fight with Terrence Crawford. I think Ring 4 on November 22nd in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia is his best card and one of the best cards we've seen in a long time. I mean, we got more than 4 fights, but I'm talking about the main 4 here. David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde. Brian Norman Jr. versus Devin Haney. Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes. Bam Rodriguez versus Fernando Martinez. Think about that. Bam Rodriguez, arguably a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He's in my top 5. He's 3 fights away from the main event. That's how stacked it is. Some might argue he should be over Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes, but hey, it's what it is. Let's talk about each fight there. Let's start with the Bam one. Bam's fighting Fernando Martinez. If you remember, Bam just won in July here in Frisco, Texas, against Femilea Cafu. Fight that Bam did what Bam does. Angles, fast shots, power shot. It's just yeah. If you don't know this guy, you're missing out. If you're not watching Bam Rodriguez, you're missing out on a generational talent. This fight is for Bam's WBC and WBO belt, and of course, Fernando Martinez's WBA belt. The IBF would be the only belt. This is a unification bout, so the IBF would be the only belt holding the winner away from being undisputed. Bam Rodriguez, what hasn't he done? He's at 115 right now, junior bantamweight. It's yeah, he's the guy. And of course, you want to see the fights against Nakatani, Inoue, all these guys at 122 and above, right? But right now, Bam's doing his thing. You just have to tune in and watch greatness. 24 years old, already a Hall of Fame resume. I think right now, Bam, if he wins, he'd want to stay at 115 and go for undisputed. I think that's what he said. But we'll have to see. Big money fights attract. The next fight, Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes. This is going to be a heck of a fight. This is a fight for one of the future of boxing. Obviously, a loss doesn't deter any of these guys away, but one of these guys can absolutely be the Abdullah Mason could be one of the faces of American boxing for years to come. He's that good. Sam Noakes is thinking, why can't I be one of the faces of boxing if I win this, right? So this fight's for the vacant lightweight title. I believe this is the one that Keyshawn Davis left, or he was overweight, then he's going up to 40. So this is Keyshawn Davis's belt. Noakes is the number 1 contender. Abdullah Mason, the number 2 contender. Crazy to think, right? Abdullah's number 2. Sam Noakes is that good, right? This is a true 50-50. Some might say maybe it's a little early for Abdullah Mason. Abdullah Mason saying what he always says. He's got appetite for the smoke. Incredible fight. We go to the co-main. Maybe my favorite fight on the calendar for the rest of the year. One of the best ones. That's Brian Norman Jr. versus Devin Haney. I did a longer video talking about it, so go check it out on my channel if you want. And I'll do, of course, more in-depth previews for all of these fights coming up. This one's for Brian Norman Jr.'s WBO welterweight title. Of course, man, this is Norman Jr., the best welterweight in the world right now after Boots Ennis moved up. Many people wanted to see that. Boots goes to 54. Okay. Devin Haney says, okay, my first official fight at welterweight, I want the best. I want Brian Norman Jr. There you go. We'll see. Can Devin take the power of Brian Norman Jr. or will he outbox Norman Jr.? That's the question. Power or boxing ability and speed. I talked about that in another video. Go check it out. Side note, yesterday it was just mentioned, Mario Barrios versus Ryan Garcia looking to be finalized. If you want to see a Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia rematch, well, there's the path. Devin Haney's got to win. Ryan Garcia's got to win. They unify belts at 147. There you go. Then we go to the main event. David Benavidez versus Anthony Yarde. This fight, David Benavidez's dad said was made in 48 hours because no one wants to fight David Benavidez. Beterbiev and Bivol, they had their trilogy, then they don't have their trilogy, then they're trying to figure out what's going on. Beterbiev was going to fight on this card, now he's not. Whole circumstances surrounding this, but we know the 22nd, it's Benavidez versus Yarde. We'll deal with who the winner faces after, if Benavidez maybe gets a chance at Bivol or better Bev after this. But we're going to see. This is, to stake the claim as I'm that guy that should get that opportunity, that should be fighting the undisputed champ, Dimitri Bivol, next. We know Benavidez has said plenty of times, I want him, I dropped him in sparring, I did all these things. We'll see. We'll see if he gets that opportunity in the ring. He's got to take down Anthony Yarde, who's a tough opponent. He's coming there to fight. We're going to see if David Benavidez gets past his test, because that's what Benavidez does. He takes the toughest challenges, and Anthony Yarde saying, like how Erickson Lubin saying, I want to mess this whole thing up for Vergil. Yarde saying, I want to mess this whole thing up for Benavidez. I want to be the guy to take on the big dogs at 175. Hey, we're going to see. Make sure you go in the comments and comment what fight, what card you're excited most for. Vergil versus Lubin, Conor, Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. rematch, and then the Ring 4 card with the fights I listed out. Let me know if I missed any fights also in the comments. Let me know what you're excited for, what you're not excited for. Just let me know. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the Never Drop Podcast. That's all I got. Peace. I'm out.